Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you today what your road test will look like as the test centers begin to open amid COVID-19. Some haven't opened yet because of keeping workers safe and keeping driving examiners safe. They haven't figured that out yet. In other places, it's business as usual. However, I don't know how they're going to deal with the sheer backlog of road tests. In many states and provinces, it's tens of thousands of road tests. I had a comment from Smart Driver D. Yorker down there in Atlanta, Georgia, and he wanted me to comment on what the modified road test looks like there in that state. So there's potentially 4 ways that you could see your road test, how it looks, and what you need to do to be able to take your road test and to pass your road test. So the first way is business as usual. Some counties in the state of Florida there are doing business as usual, but you need to do screening for the examiner to be in your car. So they're going to ask you a series of questions. Have you been sick? Do you have a runny nose? Have you been running a fever? Have you been out of the country? Have you flown anywhere? And they're going to take your temperature. As well, you're going to have to disinfect the passenger seat for the examiner to sit in your vehicle, and you're going to have to wear a mask to take your road test. Now, the challenge with doing the road test as usual is that most of the states and provinces here in Canada have tens of thousands of road tests in a backlog. They are going to take care of those tests first if you were part of that backlog and your road test was canceled sort of between March and May. But there's no way that they're going to be able to deal with that because in some states and provinces, tens of thousands of road tests. They just simply don't have enough personnel to be able to do that. The second way that they're doing it is like Georgia. Georgia initially waived the road test for new drivers to move from the learner's phase into the novice phase. Unfortunately, due to petitions and public outcry, the governor of Georgia rescinded that offer, and now new drivers have to take a road test in a closed circuit area. So it's a modified road test. You have to bring a mentor with you because you're going to be in the parking lot driving, doing slow speed maneuvers, and the examiner will be outside of the vehicle. And the reason that D. Yorker wanted me to comment on this is because a large portion of the road test is not being done. They're not taking you out in traffic. You're not going to demonstrate that you can deal with other traffic, deal with other drivers and road users, and work at complex intersections and those types of things. So there is a limitation on it. However, the good part of that test is that you have to double down on slow speed maneuvers, and slow speed maneuvers demonstrate that you have mastery of the primary controls and you know where your vehicle is in space and place. So it's a good test, and it will demonstrate that you have control of the vehicle, and it has some minor limitations, but it's not as bad as people might think initially. The third way that they could potentially do a road test is to have a chase vehicle with a driver, and the examiner sits in the chase vehicle, and they simply follow you around the same as they do in a motorcycle test. The examiner communicates with you via walkie-talkie. Again, you have to have a mentor with you in your vehicle so you can drive on the roads and do that. Again, the limitation with this is that they're simply not going to get through the backlog. What I propose for states and provinces to be able to manage and get through the backlog and start testing people again is to waive the road test, but to waive the road test and the new driver has some form of oversight. And what I suggest is that they bring on the local driving schools. The driver is moved into the novice phase, but after 3 weeks has to go in for an evaluation at the local driving school. Costs $40 or $50. It takes about 15 minutes. The instructor takes you out, goes for a little drive, and then again at, say 4 or 5 months, they do another one, and then at a year, and all of that oversight will be recorded and submitted to the authorities, and then you're good to go, and then you'll have to take your final test to get your full license. So that is the only way, the only viable option that I could see that these driving test centers would be able to deal with the huge backlog that they're now facing in order to get people through and get their tests done. Because here in British Columbia, for example, the test centers are still closed, and commercial drivers, CDL drivers who are learning to drive truck and bus, they've been waiting almost 3 months now, and it's tough for them because they went through, they got their driving, they haven't had a lot of practice, and now they got to go in and do a road test in a vehicle that they haven't been in for some time. So I don't know any other way that they're going to be able to do this. And as well, people are simply not going to wait a year, 18 months, or 2 years to get the road tests. So it's a viable option for the DMV centers to deal with the backlog that they're now facing of tens of thousands of road tests. In the state of New York, they are doing commercial license tests, but they're not doing passenger vehicle tests yet, and we'll see what happens and how this unfolds. And I would ask if you could help me out. leave a comment down in the comment section there and tell me what's happening in your state or province with the testing, and I'll collate that and put that available over on the Smart Drive Test website to help people out, and they can figure out and know what's going on in their state or province or in their jurisdiction. For another video, click here. To subscribe, click here. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now.